So, in today's story, I wanted to share a story time on TikTok that's called Who the F Raised Me, inspired by Risa Tisa, Who the F Did I Marry? And I feel like this is a good example of a narcissistic parent, and also it gives off, other small examples of narcissism for those out there who have or is experiencing narcissism abuse. So I wanted to go ahead and put this out there, and I'll do commentary towards the middle, if not end. This is also for those who just want to watch it in one straight go. So here are all the parts of the video.
My mother, when I was maybe about 3 years old, 3 or 4, divorced my father and left him for her sister's husband. So my sister was also my cousin, and my stepfather was also my uncle. I had a twin brother who passed away when we were 2.5 years old. And he passed away due to medical negligence. And my mother won a $250,000 settlement. As soon as she received the money, is when she divorced my father and left him for my uncle. And she packed us up and moved us to South Florida into this big ass house. So now I'm living with my mother, my uncle, stepdad, my cousin, stepsister, my brother, and my two half brothers who my mother smuggled in from Jamaica in their teenage years. Now, my mother's Jamaican. If you know, you know. But she was also nuttier than squirrel shit. My mother had convinced herself that my sister, who's also my cousin, wanted to have relations with her father. So let me clarify. My mother had convinced herself that my sister, my stepsister, wanted to have sex with her own father. And because of that, she treated her like shit and used to beat her bloody every chance she got. The craziest thing is, of all of my siblings, I'm the only one that didn't run away. And there is so much more that happened, like so much more. Let me know if you want a part two. My mother would do things like buy food, put it in the house, and then forbid us from eating it. And it really made no sense. I remember one time when she had bought some crybabies. Y'all remember crybabies, the little sour gum candies that you could get at like the ice cream truck and shit like that? She had bought some crybabies, and we weren't allowed to eat them unless she said that we could, which was very few and far between. So I remember one time we were coming home from church. We were in church basically 24/7. My mother was a Seventh day Adventist. So we were always in church, and we were coming home from church, and I guess she looked at her purse, and her last candy was gone, and she goes, "Who ate my last candy?" And remember, there were 5 of us, so we were all in the car like, nobody ate your candy. So she spends the whole car ride basically grilling us. And at this point, we're like pleading with each other. Like, if you ate the candy, please say something. Because my mother was the type of person that if one of us did something and didn't fess up to it, all of us got our ass whooped. All of us. So we're like, yo, if you ate the candy, please say something. All of us are in the car like, no, we didn't eat this candy, we didn't eat this candy, we didn't eat this candy. So we got home, and my mother pulls out a Bible, and she makes us put our hands on the Bible and swear to God that we didn't eat this candy. Mind you, it is a piece of gum. Be clear, a piece of gum. So after she makes us all put our hands on the Bible and swear that we didn't eat this candy, she's still not satisfied. She's convinced that not only now are we lying to her, but we are lying to Jesus. And that just pisses her off even more. So she literally lines us all up. And be clear, my mother had a specific belt that she used to beat us with. It was a thick, black, heavy belt, and it had these ridges in it. She lines us up, and from oldest to youngest, I was the youngest, by the way, she beat us all. Like, beat us. Reciting Bible verses, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, all of this. It was insane. And as the youngest, I'm sitting in there like bawling my eyes out, like heart beating out of my chest, shaking in complete and total fear. She gets to me, she whoops my ass. I'm gagging because, like, I know I didn't eat this candy. And I guess her tactic was, if she did it in a line, eventually one of us would fess up. But this time, nobody fessed up. So, anyway, everybody gets their ass beat. We all go our respective ways and go about the night. So, at some point, I was in my mother's room with her and her ex-husband. And I was like playing. I was like sitting on the floor playing or something like that. And I remember her going, "Oh, you know what? I ate that candy earlier." And they both laughed. Like they had a good, hearty belly laugh about it. I was the only person that knew. I think to this day, I'm the only person that knew that she was actually the one that ate that candy because she never apologized to any of us. I still have the scar on the back of my leg from where she beat us that night and I bled. Let me know if you want a part three. So, my mother was a narcissist and abuser, and I've been no contact with her for 10 years. For those of you who are new here, I'm a transgender man, which means that I was born female or assigned female at birth, however you want to say it. There was a time in middle school where we lived in like a predominantly white neighborhood, and all of my friends were white. I went to a mostly white school. And I mean, as black people, we know that for the most part, white people get away with things, white kids get away with things that black kids don't get away with. So my sister and I's friend at the time, who was also our next door neighbor, like literally lived right next door to us, and it was in one of those neighborhoods where there wasn't very much room in between your house and the other person's house. Like you were next door neighbors, baby. So anyway, their front door was right next to the gate that entered into our backyard. You had to go around like the side of the house to get to the backyard. My next door neighbor at the time thought it would be funny to hang a open condom over my gate. I had no idea it was there. My stepsister had no idea that it was there either. My mother got home and saw this condom hanging over the gate. Now, the condom was just opened. It wasn't used. It's not like there was any excrement in there or anything of that nature. Anyway, she proceeded to accuse my sister and I, my stepsister, cousin, whatever, and I of having sex. Now, again, this is middle school. And we're both sitting here saying, like, no, nobody's having sex. It was just a prank. Like, that's what it must have been, yada, 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 yada. Again, my mother was an RN. So she proceeds to take us upstairs and check our hymens. Now, this is a trigger warning because this part does contain talks of SA or sexual assault. Upon checking my hymen, my mother discovered that I was not a virgin. She got her belt out, and at the end of her belt, basically grilled me about who I was having sex with. And I'm telling this lady, hey, I am not having sex. Like, I'm not having sex. I'm not having sex. There's nobody that I'm having sex with because I wasn't willingly having sex with anyone. She would not let it go. She kept grilling me, kept grilling me, kept grilling me. Finally, I let her know that my half brother, her son, was essaying me. Stay tuned for the rest in the next video. So at this point, I had just let my mother know that my half brother was essaying me. When I told her, she said nothing. She didn't say anything to me. She just kind of was like, okay, and walked away. So, I was just like really confused. I didn't know if I was in trouble. I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. All I remember is that she ended up calling my brother into her room and closed the door. And they were in there for hours. But one thing I remember is that it was like quiet. It was like they were whispering. I know because I even tried to go by the door to see like what was going on. So hours go by. I'm still sitting here not knowing what's about to happen, right? And they come out of the room and I'm expecting a spectacle. I'm expecting, I don't know, the cops to show up. I'm expecting my mother to make him come over and apologize. I'm expecting something to happen. Y'all want to know what happened? Absolutely fucking nothing. Everybody went on about their day, as if nothing happened. Like literally. Everybody went on about their day as if nothing happened. So at this time, I was probably like 11 or so. When I was 19, around that age, I got into it with my mother. And I remember screaming at her, "You let your son F me and you did nothing about it." You wanna know what this lady said back? "I didn't want my son to go to jail." And that was all I needed to know. I never got an apology from either one of them. I never got any type of closure. I was expected to just forgive my brother. I'm also no contact with him. And yeah, they keep trying to get in contact with me, but not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Especially when I have two daughters to worry about. Comment if you want to hear what happened with my sister/cousin. Part 5. So y'all remember I told y'all that my mother treated my stepsister like shit. She used to make her walk around with her head down. So think of the color purple. You know how Celie had to act around Mista? Like how she had to like tiptoe around and look down and do chores and things of that nature? That's exactly how my mother treated my stepsister. And there was one particular day when we were all, and by we, I mean my mother, my two older half brothers, my brother, and myself. We were all sitting in the living room watching TV. Now, she only acted like this when my uncle, stepdad, wasn't around. When he was around, she acted completely different. He had no idea that any of this shit was going on. So anyway, she made her stay in her room. And the only time she was allowed to come out of her room was when she was using the restroom or doing a chore. So anyway, we were all out in the living room. And to be clear, it's not like we as kids were just like evil. We were not allowed to say anything about it or we would get our asses beat. So we're all in the living room, and I don't remember if we were watching a movie. I don't remember what was going on. But I remember we were like laughing and all that stuff. And my stepsister walks past, and she must have fucked around and looked up and caught eye contact with my mother. And she just tried to keep walking by. And we all just kind of like froze because my mother was like, "Who the fuck are you looking at?" Basically. And she would try to pull us into it. She would be like, "Do you see this ugly girl?" She used to call her ugly because my stepsister is dark skinned, and far from ugly. She's always been so fucking beautiful. But anyway, neither here nor there. She would call her ugly and black and stupid and all this other stuff. And I remember she asked her like, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And my stepsister just stood there because she was like confused because she knew if she spoke, she was fucked. She knew if she didn't speak, she was fucked. So she just kind of stood there. And I will never, ever, ever, ever forget this night as long as I live. My mother went to the kitchen and got this metal soup spoon. Now, you know what a soup spoon is. It's the one with the really deep ladle. Heavy, thick John. She went and got that. And was so offended that this girl looked at her that she beat her in the head until blood was pouring down the front of her face. Then got mad at her and got mad at us for trying to help her, for trying to clean herself up. So we all got in trouble that night. We all got in trouble. Did we get beat bloody? No. And the craziest thing is my mother was an RN. So that's how she was able to hide it from my stepfather. She knew exactly how to abuse this girl. She knew exactly how to abuse all of us. And if any of like the teachers or anything at our schools saw any of the bruises and we even made it seem like it came from the house, my mother would be waiting there to whoop our asses. She would beat us for a teacher noticing a bruise that she put, or a cut that she put on us. Let me know if you want a part 4. So my mother kicked me out over a man. When I believe this was 9th grade for sure. Her boyfriend or whatever he was at the time called, and I was like, oh, she's not here. She should be home from work at an X amount of time. No attitude, no nothing. My mother gets home in a rage. Why did such and such say you gave him an attitude and you hung up the phone on him and da-da-da-da-da-da? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Do you know that without explanation, without nothing, this lady came over to me, grabbed me up by my neck, and closed fist punched me in my face more than once and then kicked me out. The only reason why I was allowed back in the house is because my brother begged and pleaded for her to let me back in the house. Not the first time she kicked me out, or the last time she kicked me out. But another time that sticks out to me was when she kicked me out due to my lifestyle. I didn't do anything to her. She just kicked me out, and I was still in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I had good grades. I did great in school. I played on the flag football team. I played on the basketball team. And that wasn't good enough for her, apparently. And she kicked me out, and then she moved 4 hours away and left me there with nobody. And I was sleeping in a car, and I couldn't get to and from school, and I got withdrawn from school, and would have been a high school dropout if I didn't do what I needed to do to get my high school diploma. Then in my young adult years, I was about 19, she kicked me out again over a man, and this time I don't even remember what the circumstances were, but she basically begged and pleaded for me to move in with her. It was me and my 3 cats. And because of some altercation, I believe the man was being lewd towards me, if you catch my drift. And I cursed him out. And she in turn kicked me out in the middle of February. It was like 20 degrees outside, and I had to sleep in my car with my 3 cats. So yeah, I just had a lovely mother, and those are only 3 instances in which she kicked me out. She kicked me out way more than that, and I just kept letting it happen, because if you've ever been in contact with a narcissist, you know that they will discard you and then they will love bomb you. This is not just for intimate relationships. This is for familial relationships, platonic relationships. A narcissist is going to narcissist every time. Let me know if you want another part. Part 7 of Who the Fuck Raised Me? Talking about my abusive narcissistic mother and why I've been no contact with her for 10 years. Please excuse my child in the background. Let's talk about the time when my mother beat me for laughing. And I mean beat the shit out of me. So where we grew up, we had a pool. And my mother, she changed her hair all the time. Like, it was something she did often. So this particular day, she decided to dye her hair. It was a regular day, just like any other day. We were all sitting in the back and by the pool, and my mother's dyeing her hair. Now, I don't know what kind of lapse in judgment this lady had, but this woman decides, when you really think, anyway, she decides that when it's time to rinse the dye out of her hair, that she's going to do so in the pool. Yes, the pool. the pool that has chlorine in it. She decides to wash the dye or rinse the dye out of her hair in the pool. And whoo, when she was done, her hair was like every color of the rainbow. I'm not even kidding. It was like, I'm talking red, green, blue. I was a child, okay? You pull your hair out from out of the water and dry it, and it's every color of the rainbow. I'm gonna laugh. My mother beat me so bad that day. She beat me and beat me and beat me. And then she made me stand in the Florida sun by the pool with one leg. Okay, so try to picture it. I was standing on one leg, holding the foot of another leg, and holding my ear right next to the pool so that if I lost my balance, I would fall into the pool. All because she decided, as a grown woman, to rinse her hair in chlorinated water while there was dye in it. Daddy. Let me know if you want another part. Part 8 of my mother was a narcissistic, manipulative abuser, and why I've been no contact with her for 10 years. So, what a lot of people don't know is that I'm actually legally blind. When I was a kid, I would tell my mother that I couldn't see, and she would not listen to me. She had herself convinced that I just wanted glasses. I thought glasses were cool, and I just wanted them so badly that I would lie that I couldn't see. I was struggling in school, and I was getting in trouble for not getting good grades, but I could not see. Even my teachers were telling my mother that I couldn't see. So I was getting beat left and right. I was getting my ass whooped left and right because my grades were slipping. Now, keep in mind, I was the type of child that really, really liked school. I was one of those kids, right? I enjoyed getting good grades. So it was bothering me. It was upsetting me and my homegirls that I was getting bad grades as well. I remember one day I was standing there trying to watch TV. I would have to stand and watch TV because I could not see it. I had to be like up on it to watch TV. And I remember I was standing really close to the TV, and my mother snuck up behind me and, first of all, hit me in the back of the head, and then beat the shit out of me and made me sit on the couch. And I'm crying and crying and crying and crying and telling her that I could not see the TV. Eventually, after many times of my teacher having to reach out and me like begging her, she took me to the eye doctor. I'll never forget it because, again, we lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There was an eye doctor located in Sawgrass Mills Mall. And so we went to this eye doctor, and I got my eye exam. And I remember the guy, the optometrist, saying, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your daughter is legally blind." And my mother's eyes damn near bulged out of her head. I had to get these thick ass glasses. Oh my God. And she got me like the plastic frames. Now, this lady had money. She was in the Bahamas and Jamaica all the time. She had money. She got me the cheapest pair of glasses. Then I got my ass beat for breaking them. I was only like 7 at the time, 7 or 8. I was still in elementary school. You know, this lady never apologized to me for beating my ass and blaming me and telling me that I was just lazy and that's why I was doing bad in school. Yeah, good times. Y'all be like, can you stop doing trends on an app where everybody does trends? Like, ugh, so frustrating. Don't do a trend. Now, I wasn't originally ever going to do a story time from my tub, but this couldn't wait. So the comment reads, I think doing this helps kids understand to not mindlessly eat and snack. Otherwise, you grow up with a weight problem. This was in response to my video about my mother putting food in the house and then literally not allowing us to eat it. Okay. When I say that my mother put food in the house and wouldn't allow us to eat it, that doesn't mean she was starving us, and it doesn't mean she was rationing us either. Hear me out. So what she would do is she would go to like Costco, No, her place was Sam's Club, sorry. She would go to Sam's Club and spend thousands of dollars in Sam's Club. All these fucking delicious goodies. We had a big old closet filled with just snacks and delectables and things that kids would love to eat, but we could never eat them. I'm not kidding. It wasn't like, oh, you can get one a day. Like, literally, the only times we were allowed to eat those things is when there were other people over the house and they had kids. That's when we were able to eat the goodies, right? The good, the good things that kids actually like. On the flip side of things, I always hear people talk about, well, if my kid doesn't want to eat the dinner that I make, then they're just going to go to bed hungry. That is such a triggering statement for me, and here's why. When we were kids, my mother would make these big, huge plates. It didn't matter if she knew that the food that she put on those plates was something we didn't like. My mother, again, is Jamaican, and she uses different types of pepper sauces that she's made, usually made with Scotch bonnet peppers, including the seeds. And if you've ever had that, you know how fucking hot that shit is. She didn't care that it was too spicy, that it literally hurt our mouths, noses running, eyes watering. She didn't care. She would sit us around the table with that same belt I referenced, the black one with the ridges, and a stopwatch. And we had a minute and a half to clean our plates. We are in elementary school, mind you. Shoveling food down our mouths while crying, while being in fear, while knowing that you're not going to finish this food because if you eat too fast, you're going to throw up because you don't like what's on your plate. Or maybe you're just full and the portions were way too big for you. We spent a lot of time either not being able to eat food or literally being beat into eating food. And now, here I am, a person who gets full anxiety about what to eat, how much to eat, when to eat, so much so that I will go the entire day without eating because I avoid food. I have now developed an eating disorder. And even though I eat so little that people have to remind me constantly to eat, guess what? I'm still fat. So, yeah, trauma is a very interesting thing. There's a huge difference between limiting how much a child intakes and literally controlling whether or not a child intakes and when they do, how quickly they do so. Does that make sense? Hey, so no, I am not the only one that went no contact from my mother. My brother, my full brother, the one who we both share, both parents, he went no contact with my mother well before I did. He left in high school and never spoke to her again. And I wasn't sure if he had seen my videos because he's not huge on social media like I am or whatever the case may be. But yesterday I saw that he liked a few of the videos, so I reached out to him over screenshots. So I basically said to him, hey, I know you saw my videos. I hope they're not too triggering. I didn't include his stories because I didn't get the go-ahead from him. But I did get it from, that is my stepsister's name that I crossed out. I was telling him how I have active memory loss and was wondering if he remembered any stories, to which he replied that yes, the stories were triggering, and he's also blocked out most of the memories, and he pretty much never thinks of our mom. I'm not sure about my two older brothers. As far as I know, they're still in contact with her, but as far as me and my brother, neither one of us speak to her. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. No, I won't be answering or putting any pictures or anything up of my family, so please stop asking. I know you didn't ask that to the original commenter, but still, people are asking that, and that's weird. Let's not.
Ooh, didn't this story, like, it showed us a lot of things. I mean, this story is pretty unfortunate and sad, and it really took us places. We was going multiple places with this story, and I mean, I think he did a good job explaining it. He or they, I don't know their pronouns, but eyes are gorgeous, by the way. But yeah, this it's such an unfortunate story, and it's a lot of people's story, and it needs to be told. And it it's unfortunate that children, are getting essayed and beat. And I do believe in disciplining children, but I don't believe in like beating them until they like bleed or anything like that. That's too far. Bruising, bleeding, all this, like, I don't agree with none of that, really. It it is a triggering story, especially around the part of, you know the mother checking for certain signs of purity, which I really hate that notion. I really don't understand where that came from in society, but I think it's disgusting. And as a person who's been around narcissists, and I know people on the internet is tired of that word, but as a person who's been around someone who would have clinical narcissism disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, this needs to be talked about. It needs to be out there. I felt the same way with Risa Tisa, just watching the first 2 episodes that she put out there. I was like, this person sounds like if they have a bunch of cluster Bs or some other type of mental disorder going on with them. And it's some narcissism right there. This lady, I don't know, she also just kind of sounds like a typical toxic. So if you want to call it that, you call it that too. But putting men before your children, kicking your children in and out. I've had friends go through that. And during your youth, when you're having a problem like that, and you don't have a stable adult to, really hold you down and be your pinnacle, your parent. Life turns out a little bit different for you, and I can't imagine the traumas that this individual has gone through in the course of their life. They seem like they're doing great. Every now and again, they smile, but just because someone smiles or makes a joke about it, usually that's their way of kind of their brain kind of protecting them from revisiting said trauma. This story, it shows a lot of examples, how a narcissistic mom would think. And I hope it gives someone out there, at least knowing that there's someone like you, and hopefully figuring out a way to get away, because you have to go no contact. You have to separate yourself from this, or you got to be a person who's good at gray rocking. And if you don't want to do that, I think that's really too much discipline. I'd rather that person just go off and like live their life and be who they are. And I have some other questions about how the individual figured out that they were more identified as trans man. But growing up in a house like that, and the treachery of some women around you, I don't know. It's a compelling story. As far as like the copying off of Risa Tisa thing, I don't see nothing as far as copying with that. People have been sharing their stories and experiences since the creation of books, so that doesn't make sense to me. But what does make sense to me is that this is the time and era where people want to openly share their experiences. I was telling my mom, we don't live in the days where your grandma just had to stick it out with your papa, and then she's just bottling stuff in about the relationship, and you ask them, well, what kept y'all together all this time? And they say some bullshit like communication, and you're like, okay, what communication? Give me examples where you had to apply communication. They don't never want to tell you about the arguments, the dark side of love and being in relationships. They rather just tell you, oh, we just stuck it out together, we just we just work good together. And the whole time, I remember when I used to hear stuff like that when I was growing up, I used to be like, but what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? Give me some substance with those sentences, not just feed me a little here, a little there. But now people are getting on the internet and talking about what it's like to be in a 10-year marriage, 20-year marriage, 30-year marriage, what it's like to have a narcissistic parent, what it's like to have gone through narcissistic abuse or any type of domestic violence. What was my childhood like? And it's easier to do that and a little bit faster by turning on, your TikTok, and then boom, like, because TikTok is so easy to just click and say how you feel nowadays too. So I mean, some people rather do that than sit there and write essays on essays on essays when they could just do a video essay, a little bit about my life here or there. And in a way, I think it's very great, it's very nurturing. I just don't want people to stay on that for so long and watch so much of that content when they either never experienced it and may be lucky in this lifetime to never experience it, because it could make you hyper vigilant. But those of us who have been through it, we know when someone is lying. We know when someone doesn't understand what that type of, dynamic is like to be in. And people constantly say, "Oh, well, it can never be me. How did you go through that? And how you didn't leave? And why it took you so long to go? And that doesn't make sense to me. You're lying somewhere." Or, the victim shaming, victim blaming thing. And what I have to say about that is, in science, in psychology, there is a thing called cognitive dissonance. I'm not sure if it is a cognitive distortion. I think it might be, but cognitive dissonance is when your reality is not matching up with what you believe or think or see or feel, okay? And when you're stuck in between worlds of something that you've never experienced someone pretty much Jedi mind effing you. You've never experienced that, or maybe you're younger than them, or you just haven't had a level of experience where they have had. A lot of them come from these said parents. To be honest, that's where it starts off. Or one of the parents shows a lot of manipulative, controlling behaviors, and then the child in result ends up like the parent that they said they never wanted to be like. It's not always like that, but it's usually like a 50-50 split. So, and then you have narcissists, or you have we're just gonna say abusive people of any type, will keep you in limbo about your finances, about depending on them, about they'll tell you how one event happened early on in the relationship and then twist the narrative, and you say, wait, why do I feel like you told me that this is what happened and that's how you got knocked out that day in the club or something like that? And they're like, no, I never said that. And you're like, yeah, you did, because why would I be bringing it up? And that person continuously again, Jedi mind effing you, like trying to get you to feel like you're crazy, gaslight you. They do a lot of projecting. They do a lot of things to mentally break you down, and it's to the point where some people would say, I'd rather you just hit me than screw with my mind. And after I leave this whole entire situation, I'm found trying to gather up all the pieces within me again and undo all of this stuff that you didn't put me through, it's very harsh. So if you say that it'll never be you, I'm gonna tell you right now, you would be the first. You would be the first and not the last. I mean, just alone, you're talking about, if you've ever been like sleep deprived or stayed up and then tried to go to school the next day, and you try to function and do things completely right, and your brain is just like, girl, no, I can't. these people will literally sleep deprive you. It's like your brain being hit at all directions. It is the epitome of PTSD and CPTSD, not knowing how you're going to get out, and your brain going on autopilot at times just so you can survive. And so, with your brain not being able to function completely, and depending on the education and experience that you've had previously, or if you're like a manipulative, narcissistic person, you just get the 48 laws of power and stuff like that easily, you are susceptible. Unless you are a person that is extremely secure within yourself, and since you were little, you've been like bold and able to tell it like it is to no matter who it is. You speak up for yourself really well, and you challenge people and you challenge things, and you know how to read people really well. You are susceptible to this. And let's not try to discourage people about their personal stories. Right now, for whatever reason, I mean, it's the age of Aquarius. I forget what year sign this is. Is this year 8? Either way, people are being vulnerable and they want to talk, because obviously things aren't seeming to get better in this world on many of issues. And the only thing that we do have at this point is to spread conversation and talk. I guess, the whole, I'm going to call it M19 thing, made people also contemplate deeply than they ever have in their life. And also, everyone was attached to their phone, looking up things, maybe exploring new things that they have never even heard of. They just thought that my mom was crazy, my dad was crazy. So now they're able to articulate it. They're able to go and get the help that they really need if they never had the chance to, y'all. So whatever, if this person seems like they're doing the same thing this person is doing and whatever, like I said, since books have been around, people have been talking about their experiences. Since there's been any form of media, really, people have been talking about their experiences, putting it out there in the open. So it's nothing new about that. You can't really copy that. Everybody's story is different and unique. So yeah, that's all I had to say about the topic. If you've ever been in this situation before, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. Also, the creator is called Kayden times Coleman. Yeah, if you want to find them, it'll be below. Alright, catch you on the next one. Bye.